Hi everyone, I'm going to give an overview of Unit 6, which is Digital Imaging for the Cambridge Nationals. Very brief overview covering all sections, so when you're at home you know exactly what you need to do and get finished. Don't forget you've got the mark scheme as well to highlight the detail you need to go into to get that A-star grade you're aiming for. So let's take a look. Right at the beginning here you need to produce a specification. You need to start off explaining what the client does and explaining all about the brief. So when you explain about the client, what their business is, who they are, how many people they are, which part of the country they're in, which market sector they prefer to sell to. When you talk about the brief, you have to highlight what the brief is, who the brief is for, and what the product needs to be in as much detail as possible. You may need to get online to expand on the initial idea given to you by the exam board. Once you've explained the client the brief, it may be more than one page, you need to think about your success criteria. That is the elements of the project that's going to make it successful. So each success criteria, you need to say what it is, why it's important, and how you will test it. Now, success criteria is normally about two things. The technical aspects, is it neat, tidy, accurate? And the judgmental aspects, did it work? Did it have impact? Did people like it? So you need to balance those. Now, those of you going for the A-star, in this section, you need to talk about how you're going to balance those. Which of those is more important than the others? Fundamentally, the last success criteria is normally about impact. Will people actually go and go to the website, buy the product, that sort of thing? And that normally has an overriding influence on the other success criteria. So that last little summary there is important. Okay, now moving on to research and design. Research and design, where you go and get your ideas. It's a really important part of the project. And you might do a lot more research than you actually write about, but you still need to write some to get the marks. So let's have a look at that in more detail. So you're going to start off with explaining how you're going to research. Then you're going to explain with screenshots and ideas what your research was. Remember, you can research on the internet, you can look it up in books, and you can interview people with questions, surveys, that sort of thing. You need to describe the research you've did, and importantly, to get marks in this bit of project, in this particular project, you need to show how you used a search engine, and in there you need to show evidence of simple searches, advanced searches, the and, the not, the minimizing it to certain regions and things like that. And you need a little template identifying what you researched, how you researched it, the search criteria, and what you found in the results. And then a brief summary of your research. Once you've done your research, you then need to sketch out your ideas. So a brief introduction to what you're trying to achieve. And here, lots of different little ideas, not particularly detailed, but to just show your breadth of thinking. Once you've finished that, you need to come on to your main master design. Now this needs to be so good that someone else could do it. So you need detailed explanation of all the layers you're going to use, all the features you're going to use. Don't forget, while you're developing your product you come up with an idea, you can always come back and tweak this slightly so it does look like a design. Remember, this is an academic course, not the real world. So the final bit is the components list. This is where you explain the files you're going to need to make, collect, gather in, what file types they're going to be, so what they are, what file types they are. This middle column is about success criteria. How will each element help meet your initial success criteria back there? And then the last bit is legislation, where you talk about, do you have copyright permission? Now remember, if you take the picture, if you design it yourself, you own the copyright. However, if you get anything off the internet or you borrow it from the client, you have to make sure you've explained that. Now, everything on the internet has copyright, so you need to make sure you've either asked permission to use it, or it says copyright free or royalty free on the website you've used, or you've paid for it. And try and make sure you've got a good range of those in there, as well as designing and making your own images. So that's research and design done. Now we're going to talk about software choice and image size. This is important because when we get a brief from a client, we as IT professionals have to choose which software we're going to use. And there's normally a wide choice. So let's look at this in more detail. What you're going to need to do is explain why the choice of software is important in terms of ease of use and whether you know it or not. Think of 3 bits of software you could use to do this. Think about the advantages and the disadvantages. Don't forget to mention particular features of each bit of software and how useful it is. And then in the next section, explain in paragraphs, a couple of paragraphs, why you chose the software you did. And it may be a combination of software that you've got here. Now the next bit is about image size. This is where you have to explain that you've got pixels, what pixels are, what resolution is, explain the settings you're going to have in terms of the difference, particularly the difference between printing versus screen resolutions, and what you need on the final product to give the really good quality. Again, you may have to do some research to know what you need to do there for that. Now we're coming up towards the best bit, the bit we all enjoy, is the creative image. Now here, what you've got to do is you're aiming for the final product, but you've got to show the steps that you did to get there. What you're looking for here is accuracy and impact. Is it good quality, and does it have the impact you intended? As you go through, show your development, the initial stages. Show off the advanced features of the software you use. A quick screenshot, explanation of what it was and why it worked, or why it didn't work. Some of this you may not leave in your final design because it doesn't help you meet your success criteria. Don't forget, you must show evidence that you've got layers. So one of these should be you labeling the layers, showing off that you can use the software. And the more features you use, the higher your mark will be, without a doubt. Now the last bit here is all about highlighting your final product and annotating around it, explaining why the features meet the success criteria. You'll use that later in the final presentation, so it should be good enough quality to cut and paste it into the final presentation. And then the last bit is feedback and evaluation. What you need to do is explain how you're going to test and evaluate it, do a quick testing table, come up with some interview questions, plot a few graphs showing what people think. If you interviewed 10 people, did 8 out of 10 think they liked it and it had impact? That type of question. You might want to screenshot a questionnaire you've done. And then write down your evaluation. What did you think? Did you like it? Do you think the client would like it? And hopefully you'll have some information that determines that. Then you've got to show us in the next section is that you stored the files accurately. Dead easy, as long as you've saved things in proper file names. Explain why file names are important. Screenshot of your folders with a brief explanation of any rules that you followed to make sure you get those top marks. And the last thing in the project is a final presentation. You need 2 slides, one of them highlighting in short form the success criteria you've chosen, and the last thing is taking the final presentation and annotating it and animating it so you can present it to your clients. It's basically copy and paste from what you did in the last section. And then make sure you've exported, in the last section, make sure you've exported your file in an appropriate resolution, appropriate file format, and it's in your folder. Normally it will be as a JPEG unless your client specified another need. And so that is basically, in a nutshell, the whole project. Hope you enjoy doing it. It shouldn't be too difficult for you. And just make sure you're neat and tidy as you do your work. Thank you.